I've seen way too many people go for the cheapest workstation they can find, only to end up wrestling with laggy CAD models, random freezes, and a pile of missing drivers a week later. The regret that follows a bargain basement build is real, especially when you need a reliable machine for 3D rendering, video editing, or any heavy-duty creative work. That's why I wanted to see if Dell's Precision 30003680 can actually feel like a smarter buy instead of another false economy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the 3680 isn't marketed as a gaming rig, it's a professional workstation, so the expectations should be set accordingly. The heart of this machine is a 14th Gen Intel Core i7-14700, a 10-core, 20-thread chip that Dell advertises as lightning fast. In practice, that translates to smooth multitasking when you have a few Photoshop windows open, a Premiere Pro timeline loading, and a background file transfer over Ethernet. I ran a typical day scenario, opened a 10 GB After Effects project, started a batch render, and kept a large Excel workbook with real-time data updates open. The CPU didn't spike into the red zone, it hovered around 45% usage, which meant the system stayed cool and responsive. The 16 GB of DDR5 RAM is decent for most creative workflows, but it's not a future-proof amount if you regularly work with complex 8K video or massive point cloud datasets. I found that after loading a 4K Premiere sequence with several VFX layers, the system started to dip into swap memory, causing a noticeable slowdown. Adding more RAM later is possible, but you'll need to open the side panel and match the same speed rating, which isn't a huge hassle but does add to the total cost. So if you're a solo freelancer dealing with occasional heavy projects, 16 GB will likely be enough. If you're part of a studio or anticipate scaling up your workload, plan on upgrading the memory soon after purchase. Storage is a 512 GB NVMe SSD. That's fast enough for the OS and primary applications, and I was able to boot Windows 11 Pro in under 10 seconds. However, a 512 GB drive fills up quickly when you start storing raw footage, 3D assets, and large design files. In my test, the SSD reached 85% capacity after a week of normal work, and I noticed the system prompting me to clean up space more often than I'd like. The practical workaround is to pair the workstation with an external NAS or a secondary internal HDD for archiving. The good news is the tower includes a 3.5-inch bay, so adding a larger, cheaper spinning disk is straightforward. One of the more surprising inclusions is a DVD writer. Most modern laptops and desktops have ditched optical drives, but for engineers who still receive design packages on disks, or for media archivists who need to burn master copies, that drive can actually save you a peripheral purchase. It's a niche feature, but in a professional environment where every minute counts, not having to scramble for an external USB DVD can be a small but welcome convenience. Connectivity is solid. A dedicated gigabit Ethernet port means you won't be relying on Wi-Fi for large file transfers. In my office setup, moving a 30 GB video archive to a network share took just under 5 minutes, which is respectable for a mid-range workstation. The tower also offers a handful of USB-A ports and a single USB-C that supports power delivery and data, but you'll likely need a hub if you connect multiple high-speed peripherals like external SSDs, a drawing tablet, and a webcam simultaneously. The power supply is a 500W unit. That's more than enough for the base configuration, but if you decide to add a dedicated professional GPU later, say an NVIDIA RTX A2000 for heavy GPU-accelerated rendering, you'll be pushing the PSU close to its limit. Dell's design doesn't make the PSU user replaceable without voiding the warranty, so you'd have to go through a service channel for an upgrade, which adds cost and downtime. For now, the stock setup runs quietly, and the fans only kick in under sustained load, keeping the workspace noise level low. Now, who should actually consider this machine? If you're a graphic designer, video editor, or CAD user who needs a reliable Windows 11 Pro environment and values a straightforward, brand-backed support experience, the Precision 30003680 hits a sweet spot. Its chassis is compact enough for a typical office desk, and the pre-installed OS means you can start working immediately after unpacking, no need to hunt for drivers or troubleshoot compatibility. The inclusion of a DVD writer and Ethernet port also cater to specific professional needs that many consumer-grade laptops ignore. On the flip side, if you're looking for a workstation that can handle massive render farms, deep learning workloads, or future-proof GPU upgrades, this model will feel limited. The 16GB RAM ceiling and the 512GB SSD can become bottlenecks quickly. Moreover, the lack of an internal high-end GPU means you're essentially buying a CPU-centric box, which is fine for CPU-heavy tasks but not ideal for GPU-intensive applications like Unreal Engine real-time rendering. Also, the 3.2-star average rating suggests that early adopters have encountered